serving as chair of the Northwest Indiana Regional Planning Commission meeting. I'd like you all to join me. I have to get our ensign here. Join me, please, in the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag. I pledge allegiance
to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation,
under God, indivisible, with liberty
and justice
for all.
For all.
Thank you all. Pursuant to our agenda, I'm going to recognize now our attorney, Dave Hollenbach, who, if there are new appointments to the commission, he will announce, and he will also speak to the sufficiency of the appointment document or instrument. Mr. Hollenbach, are you here? I don't see a response, so I'm going to forego that. And we're now going to have, everybody should have received the enrolled minutes for the commission meeting of May 21st, 2020, for that board meeting. That does require action by the body, as you know, because of the rule that allows us to participate electronically in meetings in consequence of the governor's order. One of the conditions of that order was that all matters have to be done by roll call. But we think that we have a way to make that not be as tedious as it was last time, this time. So to that end, if anybody has had a chance, we all should have had a chance to have reviewed the minutes. So the chair will entertain a motion to the effect of representing the disposition of the commission relative to the minutes.
Mary Janice, I'll make the motion.
It has been moved by Commissioner Tanis to approve the minutes, and it's been seconded by what commissioner?
Jim Tunn.
Thank you, Commissioner Tunn. It's good to hear you, at least. I'm not seeing you, but it's good to hear you again. It's been moved and seconded to approve the minutes of May 21st, 2020. Ms. Eklund, will you please conduct the roll?
Yes. A question, Michael. Do we have a full commission?
Ms. Eklund, do we have a quorum?
Well, we'll know for sure once we take the roll call.
Will that suffice for the commissioner, that the roll call will serve also as ascertaining the quorum? If we determine we have less than a quorum, we'll take the appropriate steps.
Thank you, Michael. This is Bob Kernahan.
I recognize you anywhere, Mr. Kernahan. Thank you. Candace, if you proceed.
Charlie Brown.
Sure, roll call. Kyle Allen, Dwayne Arndt, Jeanette Baps.
I thought she was on. I thought I saw her name before. Ms.
So.
Baps, are you here? Everyone, you might have been brought on muted. You need to locate on the lower left-hand side of your screen, move your cursor there, and you'll see something that looks just like an old-style microphone, cardioid, fully cardioid microphone, like the Tonight Show used to have in the 60s, and you click it and unmute it. Yeah, I was around the 60s, but I was really little.
Yeah, right.
I guess Ms. Baps isn't here. I'm sorry, Candace, if you'll proceed, please.
Certainly. Janet Beck.
Here.
Jeff
Are you
Benson.
voting yes? I beg your pardon, as you're called and you say here, also respond with your vote on the motion pending, which is the minutes. Ms. Beck, is that a yes?
Yes.
Thank you.
Jeff Benson,
Aye.
Jim Biggs, Kevin Brightsky.
Here and yes.
Thank you. Charlie Brown,
Here and yes.
Bill Carroll,
Here and yes.
Robert Carnahan,
Here and yes.
Anthony Copeland, Joshleen Denham,
Present and yes.
Tom Dermody,
Here and yes.
John Derwinski, Dinah Dumbris, Bill Emerson.
Here, yes. Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Morning.
Michael Griffin,
Here and yes.
Richard Hardaway,
Here and yes.
Tony Hendricks, Eric Hall, Jack Geralds,
Here and yes.
Tim Jones, Justin Keel,
Here and yes.
Andrew Kiris, Jeff Larson, Robert Lemay,
Here and yes.
Sue Lynch,
Here and yes. Good morning, everyone.
Good morning,
Hello.
ma'am.
Sheila Matthias.
Good morning. I'm here and the answer is yes.
Thank you. Tom McDermott. Lori Mercer. Wendy Miss.
Here and yes.
Edward Morales. Matt Murphy.
Here and yes.
Diane Knoll. Dwayne Perry. David Peeler. Jerome Prince.
Here and yes.
Thank you, Mr.
Michael
Mayor.
Rosenbaum. Rick Rifa.
Here and yes.
Carolyn Saxton. Tom Schmidt. Brian Snedecor. Ed Soliday.
Here and yes.
Joe Stahura. Greg Stinson.
Here and yes.
Gerald Swets.
Here and yes.
Sharon Zuido. Mary Tanis.
Here and yes.
James Tunn.
Present, aye.
George Topple.
Here and yes.
And John Yelkich. Has anybody else joined that didn't take roll call?
Did we get Mr. Murphy's vote from Valparaiso, the mayor of Valparaiso?
We did.
Yes, I did.
Here and yes.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I have 26 affirmatives. We need how many for our quorum?
27, and I count 26 as well.
I do as well.
Good morning, Diane Knoll, here and yes.
Oh, very
Yes.
good.
That
Thank
does
you,
it.
Diane.
Thank you. Thank you.
We have met quorum.
Right. And with 27 affirmatives and no negatives, the minutes of the May 21st meeting are approved. It is now in order for us to have public comments from members who wish to make comments about what is on the agenda. If you've indicated a desire to speak, you're limited to 3 minutes. You'll be recognized by I. In our public notifications, we had contact information and to be able to be advised of the link. Is there anyone at this time that wishes to speak before the commission on a matter on the agenda?
Mr. President?
Commissioner Schmidt, how are you?
Yes, I just wanted to make sure you knew that I was attendant.
If there's no objection, I will show you not only attendance. Do you wish to have your vote recorded for the minutes?
Yes,
And that would be recorded as yes?
yes.
Thank you, Commissioner Schmidt, and welcome. That is 28, not only present, but 28 affirmatives on the prior vote. If there's no objection from the members, the minutes will reflect 28 in affirmative, and the full body being at 28 at the time of the vote. Second call for public comments. Apparently there are no one, and I hope that we didn't make a barrier for that. So that matter is closed. If there's no objection from the commission, I'm going to move us back to an earlier matter on the agenda. I do see that Attorney Hollenbeck has joined us. The attorney does have the responsibility to report to us any new appointments to the commission and also to offer or opine on the sufficiency of the instrument of appointment. Attorney Hollenbeck, welcome, and if you would please make your report.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We have a number of appointments this morning that I have reviewed, and I will indicate at the beginning that they all meet the statutory criteria for membership on the commission. I'll go through them. The town of Kingsford Heights, Dennis Francis, the town council president, informs us that Dwayne Arndt is their appointment. With regard to the town of Winfield, we've been notified that John Derwinski is their appointment. With regard to the town of Couts, Timothy Jones, the town council president, informs us that Timothy Jones, the town council president, is their appointment. The town of Munster informs us that Wendy Meese is their appointment. Michigan City, the mayor informs us that Dwayne Perry, the mayor, is in fact their appointment. That is the case as well for the city of Gary. Jerome Prince informs us by certificate of appointment that Jerome Prince is the appointment from the city of Gary. And finally, the town of Lowell informs us that John Yelkish is their appointment. Mr. Chairman, all of those appointment notifications are in proper form, and all of those individuals are appropriately seated as members of the commission.
Thank you, Mr. Hollenbeck. I appreciate that very much. With the forbearance of the commission, then I'm going to move on to item 5 on our agenda. This is styled as a presentation from the Northern Indiana Commuter Transportation District with regard to double track and Westlake projects. I did see earlier that Mr. Mike Nolan, President and General Manager of the district, is here, and I understand he's to be joined by Nicole Barker, who is Director of their Capital Investment and Implementation Program. Mr. Nolan, you're welcomed and recognized.
Thank you very much. And thank you to the commission for inviting us to be here today. It's a very exciting time for both projects. We are moving along towards start of Westlake construction here in the fall. I'm going to walk you through briefly a presentation. Many of you have seen this before. You can advance to the next slide, Nicole, if you can. I have control. There we go. This is our current operation, 90-mile railroad from Millennium Station in Chicago, terminating at the South Bend International Airport. We currently go into the airport on the east side of the airport. A separate project is under consideration in that area to have a final location or an updated location in South Bend, but currently we're on the east side of South Bend International Airport. Next slide. This is a system map that shows the planned improvement for Westlake. The Westlake project is around an 8-mile project. It will start in North Hammond as we come into the state of Indiana from our rail system as it heads to the west to Chicago. We will diverge from North Hammond and run down the old Monon Rail corridor, terminating the current segment of this project at the Munster-Dyer border at Main Street in Munster. We'll have some property also development in Dyer as well. Next slide, Nicole. So as I said, it's an 8-mile operation. We'll have 12 through trips, 6 in the morning, 5 to Chicago, 1 coming back in the morning. In the evening rush, we'll have 5 that are going to come from Chicago back to terminate at Munster-Dyer with 1 return trip to Chicago. The really neat thing about the Westlake service is that we're also going to be able to add intermediate service, so off-peak evening and weekend service, because we'll be able to run a 2-car shuttle from Munster-Dyer to the Gateway Station in Hammond, so that we can not only run the 1-seat trips, but we can run full service day 1 of Westlake. Travel time for the through trains is 14 minutes. 14 minutes from Munster-Dyer to Hammond, and a total trip from 47 minutes downtown Chicago. 4 stations at Hammond Gateway, 173rd Street in Hammond, Munster Ridge Road, and then the Munster-Dyer station. Each station will have parking, kiss and ride, ADA spaces. We'll have a maintenance and storage yard in North Hammond, and everything's designed with sustainability in mind. Okay, go ahead, Nicole. Again, 6.7 miles. A lot of it's elevated structure, primarily in North Hammond, although we do cross a number of class ones along the way that we'll have to go up and over. 52 structures, 2,300 feet of track feet of bridges, 5,000 feet of elevated structure, lots of retaining wall, a major storage facility, a facility to do maintenance in North Hammond, as I said, 4 stations. We'll relocate the existing Monon Trail to accommodate the rail system, and that's primarily on this slide. So next slide, Nicole. Platforms will be between 2-car and 8-car platforms 6-car to start. Our opening year capacity, we expect to have 875 trips a day out of Munster Ridge. It'll be our largest station, followed by South Hammond over 20 years. And we project every system projects 20 years. You can see that the ridership substantially grows on most of the stations. Munster Ridge, it shows flat, but we expect that development is going, and you cannot project development onto the stops model. So we expect that number is going to go significantly higher. We used a design build approach to procure the construction. FH Passion is our designer. We expect to go to the NICD board this coming Monday with an authorization to give me the power to give a notice to proceed to the design builder this fall once we receive a full funding grant agreement from the federal government. You can go ahead, Nicole. Lots of property acquisition, and it's been going very smoothly. The Federal Relocation Act is very beneficial to property owners. We've been treating them very fairly. We have most of the property already acquired. Very few of the properties have gone to condemnation, so that's good sign. So we are well on our way to acquiring the property that's necessary. As you can see from the slide, there's a lot of property acquisition. We're also going to be rehabbing 32 of our stainless steel rail cars and giving them a complete what's called end life rehabilitation. So all new flooring, all new windows, all new seats, new bathrooms. The cars are structurally sound, so they should last at least another 15 years. Our riders will look at them, at least on the inside, and think they're new. Next slide, Nicole.
Sorry, there's a little lag.
That's okay. This is our timeline. We start off on the far left side with a scoping meeting. I think it was my second day of employment here with NICD. It was held at the Munster. It was a Munster meeting hall where we started scoping in the draft environmental impact statement process. We got our final environmental impact statement and ROD a couple of years ago. We've received 2 medium-high ratings from the FTA. We're entered into the engineering phase of the 3-step process to get a federal grant, and we are on a fast track here to receive a full funding grant agreement from the FTA. Our target for that is the end of September, and we're working diligently to make that happen. Construction would immediately start, would finish up in late 2024, and we would start revenue service in early 25. Next slide, Nicole. To date, we have completed all. I said we've completed all of our appraisals. We have most of the right of way. We are on budget, so that's a positive sign in the real estate acquisition side. We did a pretty good job of assessing the valuation, and we have one more offer to make on a parcel of property, and we will make that. Actually, it was made on June 25th. Go ahead, Nicole.
I think we were going to skip this one.
Yeah, I think I already mentioned that we did design build. It's passion, and so that's fine. Well, you went too far.
I think we were. Oh, you wanted to go on this one? Yeah.
Yeah. Actually, I've gone through these are all the major milestones. So you can go to the next slide. And the next slide, I just want to point out that this was a positive presidential tweet for us. We found out a couple of weeks ago that the Westlake project was receiving advance commitment of capital investment grant funding in the amount of $100 million. That was a very big shot in the arm for the project. We were being told by the FTA that our project was in great shape and on a fast track to get a full funding grant agreement, but to be recommended by the FTA and be approved by the President of the United States for advanced funding was a pretty special moment for the project to get that kind of recognition from the FTA all the way up to the administration. Here's a graphic of the proposed development starting at the Hammond Gateway Station, which is really the linchpin to the start of the project, where the South Shore line, which is the top rail line, meets up with the Westlake line that is coming from the south. The South Shore system will be at grade at this location. We're actually moving our current station 3 blocks to the west to make this happen. And the Westlake rail system will be up in the air. There'll be potential development north of the station, and then south of the station will be our parking station and ADA kiss and ride. Next slide, Nicole. Here's some renderings. You can see on the bottom left, you can see the Westlake station is elevated up about 10 feet in the air there, and the South Shore station is there at grade. On the top right is a rendering of someone standing on the platform on the Westlake project. Next slide, Nicole. Here's a rendering just to the south of this is going to be our yard location. And it's always a challenge to find a good spot where a yard can be developed. We worked very closely and cooperatively with Hammond, who welcomed the yard to this area. We're going to be redeveloping an area that is currently used. A lot of excess truck trailers are in this property, so we're in the process of acquiring it now. We'll remediate any of the environmental concerns, and then we'll build our storage tracks there and a light maintenance facility, phase 1. Phase 2, we'll build a complete maintenance facility at this site. Keep going, Nicole. Next station is 173rd Street. There'll be a 6-car platform here at 173rd Street. I'm sorry, 4-car to start, 6-car, the next phase, and 8-car down the road. Each one of our platforms is being built so that it can be built out to the ultimate 8-car level. And so the current design is to have 4-car elevated platform to start with the ability to go to 8-car down the road. So we will have parking and a platform adjacent to the station here at this location. Next slide, Nicole. This is our Munster Ridge Road station. It will start off as a 2-car elevated platform. Again, it can go all the way up to 8-car. Based upon initial ridership demands, 2-car is more than enough to satisfy the expected ridership. But as I said, it is scalable, and so we'll be prepared to build out if we need. It will have a high-level platform, kiss and ride, and then our typical design for a overhead platform and canopy. The last station here is the Munster Dyer station. This station, we will be constructing a underpass to go underneath the CSX railroad, which is the north-south line that you see on the map. The station parking will be on the west side of the CSX. We'll have a pedestrian crossing in the middle of the parking campus to get to the east side of CSX, where we will be developing a new rail station and a high-level platform. We'll also have kiss and ride on the that is on the east side, south of Main Street along Sheffield and Dyer. That will be our ADA parking as well as our kiss and ride parking. There'll be a ramp to go up and over the roadway that leads underneath the underpass to get to the station platform itself. Okay. Next slide.
I think that's it.
I think that's it for Westlake. maybe we'll continue on and go to double track. And then after that, open it up to the commission for any questions they might have. Just to conclude, we are hoping to get and we have the commitment from the head of the FTA to receive a full funding grant agreement. They're putting every resource they have to work alongside NICD to make this project a reality here in the next couple months. So things are going extremely well with Westlake. It's all yours, Nicole.
Thanks, Mike. Again, this is Nicole Barker with NICD. I am the Double Track Northwest Indiana project manager, among other things. Thanks to the full commission for having us. We on Double Track are a design bid build project. And as a result, we're at a little bit of a different phase than Westlake. We are at 60% and quickly moving towards 90% designs for the project, which are being delivered to us in August. We will be done with our designs this year. And so things are moving very swiftly. We are really excited to start sharing what the station plans in particular are looking like for the project. And that's what my focus is going to be today. Miller Station, just a fresh reminder, one of the drivers of Double Track is to get us to downtown Chicago and back faster. Today, the travel time from Miller is about 1 hour 9 minutes. After Double Track, it's going to be about 50 minutes, and express trains 43 minutes. Miller Station has a lot going on. Most folks know that there is a NDOT major change going on here at Lake Street. Excuse me, I'll go back one slide. And these blue lines indicate where US 12, which currently runs in this direction, will take a southbound turn directly connecting with US 20. There will be a signalized intersection created here. And what this does is it frees up our former Highway 12 for us to straighten out the curve that we have in our tracks and offer expanded parking opportunities, which is really exciting. So we're working very closely with NDOT in partnership on this project. This is a zoomed in campus view of what's going to happen in Miller. This is Lake Street, north is up here. We have a west lot and a east lot, as you can see. We also have our 2 high-level platforms going in here, and we have a new station, and also show you some renderings of that. These red lines that say set out tracks here indicate where we will be starting and stopping a lot of our trains that currently stop at Gary Metro. They're going to now come to Miller and turn around to go back to Chicago. We call these our Gary plug trains. So right away, day one, Miller's getting more service, about 30% more day one. We're also using some, I know Jim Tunn and others are on the phone who care about conservation. 3 of our major parking lots are using technology that allows for infiltration rather than traditional detention ponds, which is wonderful. And each of the parking lot lighting devices are also going to be dark sky compliant. This is one of the renderings that kind of shows what the station will look like offset looking west from Lake Street. And here's our train in the foreground. This is another rendering of Miller Station. We're taking a look northeast at the southwest corner of the station. Here's our train, and this is the main station itself. Yet another rendering. One important thing to note here is we've talked to Azuli and others who are keenly focused on universal design, and every station entrance and all of our access is universal, so that whether it's a person in a wheelchair, a person temporarily on crutches, or other abilities, they're all able to enter buildings and our platforms at the same places. This will be a new configuration as we have our second track here. So where you see our train, you will have to cross. There will be gates and arms here, flashers, to go to the other platform. That's a new condition we'll have to educate people about. Moving on to Portage, Ogden, Dunes, Dune Park, and Beverly Shores. Here are the travel times. Again, we're going to be moving much more swiftly, and this is where in these areas we're still getting in the less than an hour or right around the hour to downtown, which is fantastic. This is the campus view for Portage, Ogden, Dunes. I know Mayor Lynch is on. We've been working extensively with her, as well as the town of Ogden Dunes, with Carolyn Saxton's on the plans for this station. As of right now, we'll have a south high-level platform, and we will keep the current low-level platform in place. We will expand our parking to the south here. This is the kind of open area, and this is the substation if you're familiar with this area. We don't move the gas station, that remains. But we're acquiring all this property and building a parking lot. One of the really great things that the infiltration option and collaboration with AJ and the city and Ogden Dunes resulted in is through putting our minds together, we ended up being able to preserve this dune topography and have this nice buffer from ranges from 20 feet wide to 60 feet wide on the east side to make it more aesthetically pleasing from Stagecoach Road, as Portage has future plans to develop this, and we also want to minimize the view changes here for the adjacent residences. There will be a signalized pedestrian crossing here to get to the platform. And people parking in the existing north lot will also cross here or here to get to the platform. We will mostly use the north level platform for just emergency use only. And I should pause here to say, if you aren't aware, the high level platforms are not only a benefit because the train has to wait for low level platforms about 3 minutes. For high level platforms, it's about 30 seconds. So we're faster because of that, but also better ADA access. And of course, bikes on trains. We have a robust bikes on trains program, which we are expanding again. This will allow all these new stations that are getting high level platforms to now be accessible by bike and to the wonderful trail system that NIRPC has worked so hard to develop. Here at Dune Park, pretty minor adjustment. This is a new parking area that we will be putting in, and this is an old design. We have since removed the detention basin here to use infiltration as well. And it's just important to note that we have the authority also to expand in 2040 with an additional 270 spaces. So it's about 5 acres here to the west of our existing east lot that'll be expanded for parking. We're also putting in a high level north low level platform. Again, that'll be, it'll help us with operational flexibility, and it will really mostly be used only for emergencies. Here under Highway 49, we have to kick the Calumet Trail over to the north a little bit. So we have all the federal approvals and local approvals to get that done, and that'll be part of the Dune Park work. Beverly Shores Station, most people ask us, are you doing anything to the building? No, the building is not being affected, but we are putting in 2 low-level platforms. There will be a new pedestrian crossing here, and there's no change to the parking area. A lot of change is also at 11th Street in Michigan City. We've been working extensively with Mayor Perry and his staff. We have a travel time that's going to get down to still about just over an hour for the express trains. This is a game changer for downtown Michigan City. Here's the campus for Michigan City. We will have a 3-level parking garage / station building here on the block bounded by 10th Street, 11th Street, Franklin, and Pine. We'll have 2 high-level platforms. 11th Street will convert to one-way eastbound traffic only. And we'll also have 2 surface lots here around Spring Street and Cedar Street to complement the building. Our existing overflow lot to the south also remains. Oh, I think one thing I'll note on this next slide here is we've really been mindful of transit connections. So we're working with local transit entities like GPTC and Gary and Michigan City Transit here to ensure that we have good intermodal connectivity at all stations. This yellow block indicates a future building that will be built next to us. Michigan City would like to do a transit-oriented development on this property. So we've left a 40-foot by block long footprint for them to do just that. Here's the station area. The entrance will come in on Pine Street, in and out, but we'll have a one-way inbound only also off of 10th Street. The old station building, the community wanted us to preserve it. We're expending quite a lot of money to incorporate this wonderful facade into the future structure. We are currently revising these images and we'll be showing updated ones on our website and to the Michigan City Historic Review Board. These are the 60% design images at this time. But this gives you an impression we've left 2 spaces for future retail. Here is that historic facade and our 2 high-level platforms. And this is that area that would be used for TOD, and maybe we'll have some kind of public art mural until that future building is built. Another view from looking northwest. Kind of a little bit of an aerial view looking toward the northwest also. You see this eastbound 11th Street as well as our train and the platforms. Here's that historic facade and the vehicles. And that's it in a quick nutshell. I think Mike and I are ready to answer any questions you may have. Thank you.
No, Nicole, I would, before we get to questions, a couple things I wanted to mention. One, What we've been told by the federal government, I think this is important for the commission to know, is that our projects and the actions that the state of Indiana have taken over time, both the local support, the state support, the funding we got a couple of years ago from the General Assembly, the additional 185 million with 20 million available if the governor approves. All those steps, the FTA has said, separates us out from other projects around the country. So local support is incredibly important. The other aspect of the project, which is a huge driver, is the transit-oriented development. And the transit development districts. Ty, you know, I think at some point in time, you'll probably want Bill Hammond to come and give you an update. But that is, it needs to be understood that the FTA is keenly aware of what we're doing with the transit development districts, and that the local support is tied to the transit oriented development growth. So those are some key things that separate our projects from other projects around the country, and has really fast tracked us from the federal government's viewpoint of time. It's fast tracked us through their system. The last thing I want to mention is COVID-19. We're all obviously, the way we're having this meeting is a reflection of that. COVID-19 is not slowing down our projects at all. We are deemed essential projects. So both our day-to-day operations, but also the project development activity are deemed essential. So we have not had any COVID-19 to date slowdowns. NICD is running at about 17% of normal ridership. That's actually about 3 times what we were running about a month ago. We're taking substantial steps to change the way we operate, especially from a sanitization standpoint, both for our employees and for our riders. But I also wanted to at least mention COVID-19, since it's something that is top of mind, obviously, for all of us. And with that, I will turn it back to you, Michael.
Turn on your mic.
Thank you, Mr. Nolan, and thank you, Ms. Barker, very much. And I will remember that I shouldn't be so technology impaired. Anyway, thank you very much for that presentation. I do want to open it up for questions from the commission under informal consideration. Ms. Barker, are you related to the famous Barkers of Michigan City?
I'm asked that quite often, and I always say, if I was, I wouldn't be working at all.
Oh, okay. Well, I don't know, maybe you would, because they were very philanthropic at one point in their life. So this is the form of service. Very well. Thank you. Commissioners, this is open for you to engage in colloquy with Mr. Nolan or Ms. Barker.
This is Mary Tanis from Dyer. I have a couple of questions. Number one that really concerns me with NIRPC is the fact that we have so much traffic coming from the south right now, and it's more or less an obstacle course to try to get to the station, you know, the proposed station. We need to take steps right now to remedy that, to figure out a way that people can get to that train very quickly all the way from Lowell, because right now it's awful and people are always complaining about the traffic. And I think that that's something that we can address with NIRPC. The second thing is I'm looking for bike trails all the way to the Munster Dyer station and to the other stations as well. So we want to be aware of that a lot of people are very concerned about that. And I'm looking forward to the transit-oriented development that certainly is affecting Dyer. I have a couple other questions, but I will get with Mike by calling him or something. So thank you.
Mr. Nolan, Ms. Barker, do you want to respond or comment?
We've worked very closely with Dyer and President Tanis, and we look forward to if there's any individual discussions. We're very happy, Mary, to have a offline conversation. With respect to bikes, you know, we're preserving the Monon Trail. We've worked with Munster, Dyer, and Hammond on trail issues. Plus, all the platforms for Westlake will be high level, so they'll accommodate bikes. So, so that's something we strongly support.
Yes, thank you. Now we need to address the roads.
Does anyone else on the commission wish to pose a question to Ms. Barker or Mr. Nolan?
Well, Mr. Chair, if I could, just first of all, thanks, Mike and Nicole. Really appreciate you doing this today, and just congratulations on all the progress that's happening here. It's just super exciting. And I know you probably get asked all the time, and I do as well. I just obviously it's not running till it's running, but just what's for both the Westlake and Double Track, if you could best guess again. I think you mentioned this earlier, especially with Westlake, but the expected service year that you expect things to be operating on both of these.
Yeah, that's always a good question, Ty. And just you'll see different dates because there's a date that we are building to internally, which is the construction schedule that we're going to hold our contractors to. But then there's the FTA date, and the FTA date has 25% contingency on top of that revenue service date, actually even more. So for Double Track, I would say September of 2023. Nicole, is my recollection of the current non-contingency schedule. Is that correct? And then for Westlake, our non-contingency schedule is, I believe it's October of 24, but it might have gotten moved to February 25, Ty, but I'll circle back with you.
Great, appreciate that. Yeah, and then I think everybody understands that there's contingencies involved here, but it is a frequently asked question, so thank you.
I guess then that basically would conclude our presentation this day. I want to thank
Michael.
Barker. Yes.
Michael.
Yes.
Just one further comment, if I may.
Please.
This is Jim Tunn, and I'd like to say that was an excellent presentation. And we're very glad here in Chesterton and the Duneland community to see this double track come in. It will go a long way toward our economic development and tourism to the dunes. So we appreciate all the effort that everybody's put in, and very glad to hear that it's moving ahead so quickly. Thank you.
Yeah, I echo Commissioner Tunn's comments for all of us, because I do believe that it's almost obvious to state that this is a series of projects that have great regional import. I'm just wondering about what the G-forces are going to be on those double track trains when you can get things from Michigan City down to 67 minutes. So will my face be pressed against glass or something? I just want to know about that. Anyway, I want to thank Mike Nolan and Nicole Barker again on behalf of the full commission for your presentation today, for your professional stewardship of this project and your leadership. And I'm looking forward to the happy results of this program. I was active when Congressman Visclosky started assembling a working group that started talking about the financing on this. I was very involved in that as part of the working group. So I'm very happy to see that financing from that little place grew into this larger tree. And I hope that it becomes a great field of foliage for us when it gets fully developed. Thank you both again.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
If there's no objection in commission, we're going to move on to the matters remaining on our agenda. The next matter before you is a report from the chair. I'm going to use my report today to talk a little bit about an approach we're going to take today that's fully consistent with some parliamentary authorities with our agenda. We're going to use a device called a consent agenda. There may be some of you here who are very acquainted with them. The one I'm most acquainted with, interestingly enough, is not from Highland. We cannot convince ourselves to do that, but my neighbor, the town of Munster. They have been successful in using the consent agenda concept. Robert's Rules recognizes it, Demeter's Rules recognizes it, and I only added that second parliamentary authority to show off for you. By and large, the concept is this. There are in societies like ours, or deliberative bodies like ours, or administrative bodies like ours, there are a number of matters that require by law action to favor or disfavor matters, but generally don't require a lot of deliberation. Get generally reviewed, and it's understood that if there's a quorum there, that these things will be approved. Consent agendas were designed to deal with that. Now in Munster's, theirs is very elaborate. With the exception of one or two things, they literally list every possible item that discretionary action can be taken by the town council. And at the very beginning, they review those. And that includes the minutes. And sometimes it can even include the claims docket. So what happens is that if any member objects to it being considered basically in bank or in total, where one motion will be received in a second and one formal action will be taken to either approve or disapprove everything on it, generally it's anticipated with a consent agenda that it'll be full approval for everything on it, then any one member can ask for something to be removed, and then that will be voted on separately. We're going to modify that approach this time because with NIRPC, we wanted to first experiment with this. And we also noticed that a lot of our actions also require staff presentations to help inform further deliberation of the body. So with that, you'll see when we get down to item 8, you're going to get a presentation basically from the Finance and Personnel Committee led by our treasurer, Richard Hardaway. And at that moment, then you'll see that there are 3 items that evolve out of their representation. They will be taken up together unless any member of the commission asks that it be considered separately. And the same will be true with the balance of our agenda for those items. It is our belief then that we can actually conclude matters with effectively 3 more votes, absent any action by any commissioner. And nobody needs to feel the least bit reserved or constrained. It is the right of a commissioner to ask for something to be separated if they wish. Does anyone have any questions of me about that matter?
Michael, I don't have a question with you, but certainly Dyer has used it for many years and it tends to shorten up our meetings, which is really welcomed.
Yeah, I really like it. I think it's a good idea, but it also has to be something with which the body that's tasked with setting the agenda is comfortable with. If the group will forbear me a moment of personal privilege, and I want to artfully say this so that it doesn't sound like I'm aggrandizing myself, but I'm very proud of this. I recently was made aware after taking a day-long seminar and completing a test as part of my continuing education through the Association of Public Treasurers of the United States and Canada. I have actually achieved the designation of Advanced Public Finance Investment Manager. So that I'll add an A to one of my initials now. I just received my plaque, and I hope that I can offer that just as information because of my professional pride, but nothing more than that. I will continue to try to lead here with a servant's heart. That concludes my report then, and I now recognize the Executive Director, Mr. Warner. Ty?
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and congratulations on that, by the way, on being able to increase that already long stream of initials after your name.
I have a lot of alphabets.
Good deal. Just thank you all for participating in this format. I know this has its challenges, but it also has its joy. It's great to see everybody in their native habitat, so to speak, and appreciate you going with the flow with all of this. Staff is still working remotely at this time. We still continue to monitor the situation, and I'm in the office today as some of us drop in from time to time, but for the most part, we're still remote. That may be changing in the near future, but we're taking it case by case, just FYI. You can always reach us. I'm sure you've had no problem getting through phone, email, etc. So we are still available. I mentioned last time in May when we met these Economic Development Administration funds that are new. This is a new world for us, and just wanted to let you know of some further development there. Gabrielle Bachunas on our staff has been named the Economic Development District Coordinator. So she is your go-to person, has been promoted into this role to help build this new program of NIRPC. As I mentioned last time, there are quite a bit of dollars that the EDA has made available through the CARES Act, that are available for projects for economic development related to impacts from COVID-19. So Gabrielle, I know for a fact, has already been working with some of your communities to connect you to EDA about that grant process and help you through that application. And just want to extend that invitation to you again to reach out to her, and if you want to bounce ideas off her or have her work with EDA on your behalf and help you through that process, she is available to do that. And those funds do have to be spent. It literally is a first come, first served process. There's quite a bit of money out there, but EDA is already saying they expect to be oversubscribed for the amount of applications because everybody in the country is basically eligible for these funds. So to the extent that we can facilitate trying to get some projects funded in Northwest Indiana, that would be a really good thing.
A quick question, Ty.
Yes.
Will Gabrielle be reaching out to our LEDOs in each of the counties and coordinating efforts with them? Because some of them have projects in the hopper that may fit perfectly.
Yes, absolutely. In fact, we did send a blast already to all the LEDOs in Northwest Indiana. I've been working with our partners at the forum to help get that word out. And absolutely, she's making direct contact as well as the blast. So thank you for asking.
Thank you.
But don't hesitate to go ahead and follow up and not wait for her contact. If you have a potential project that will come into the mix, please contact us. All right, further, just real quick, Representative Soliday touched on some of this at the last meeting in May. I just thought some quick notes on what's happening on the federal level. Obviously, the impacts of COVID-19 and reduction in gas tax revenues on the federal level is affecting, or is expected to affect, the Highway Trust Fund, of which we get our funds for projects. Because of the decrease in travel related to COVID-19, I understand the projection for the insolvency of the Highway Trust Fund has now been moved up to April of 2021. Wow. If you recall from past discussions, Congress has yet to put a sustainable source of income for the Highway Trust Fund. They cobbled things together essentially 5 years ago. So when that expires in September, we'll be facing a bit of a challenge. I think that is on folks' radar screens though, so it's just a matter of how Congress mobilizes to try to address that potential shortfall. The House has passed H.R. 2, which the Senate has already indicated that they are not too likely to pick that up. But there's one very important thing within H.R. 2 that I wanted to draw your attention to, given that this commission formed a rail crossing task force at the behest of Mayor McDermott to address this issue of our inability to ticket, your inability to ticket trains that have blocked an intersection more than 10 minutes. H.R. 2 on the federal level contains an entire section related to rail crossings. And in that section is a provision for rail crossing grants to help with those crossings, ease those crossings, but it also contains on the federal level a provision to basically be able to ticket trains that are blocking intersections more than 10 minutes. So what has been in previously state law, which was struck down by most of the states in this country, according to the state Supreme Courts, has at least been proposed in H.R. 2 on the federal level. So given this committee's support in that rail crossing task force to try to gain a federal solution, we expect to work with the folks that are interested in legislative issues on this commission to try to at least voice support for some provision carrying over in whatever future reauthorization is. So just wanted to draw your attention to that provision in H.R. 2. And we'll keep you posted as that continues. And then just real quick, dropping to the state level, I think you all received this notice. We sent out a blast about it. Even though community crossings funds do not come through NIRPC, I just wanted to make sure everyone was aware that, again, due to the impacts of COVID-19, they are holding off until September to assess funds at that point. It was supposed to be in July. Their NDOT is holding off until September, at least last I heard, to be able to better assess the projection of revenues and whatnot. So that's all I have, unless there's additional questions. Thank you, Mr. Chair, for walking through the consent agenda. I think this will help after the multitude of roll call votes we had in May. This was seen as a good solution to try to limit those, since we do have to do a roll call for each vote. So thank you for being able to be flexible and adaptive to a new structure here today.
Thank you, Ty. And I hope the group will forbear me. Etiquette teaches that before you remove your jacket or a tie in the company of people, you should ask permission, and I did not. So I hope that I have been granted it by your acquiescence. I did take off my tie because Ty himself is showing how good it looks without it. I'm going to try to fashion myself after our executive director.
Flattered.
We move on then. If there's no further business from the chair, excuse me, from the executive director, and there's no questions of the executive director at this time. The next matter of business before us is under the Finance and Personnel Committee reports and recommendations for matters that we will take up under that portion of a consent agenda. After the end of the presentation, I will ask if there is any item on the consent agenda, which would be resolutions 2014, 2015, and 2016, which are also carried over to the next page. If anybody wishes those to be considered separately, if not, then they will be taken up essentially as one vote. Having said that, I recognize the venerable treasurer of NIRPC, Mr. Hardaway.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The Finance and Personnel Committee met this morning to review the financial report for June 2020. Also reviewed were the bank reconciliation and claims registers for the month. There were 5 actions for consideration today, and I will turn it over to the staff to be presented at this time. Staff?
Good morning, everyone. It's Talea. The budget amendment number 3 is to add all coronavirus relief and economic security funds, as also known as the CARES Act funds, of $5,897,297 to the different categories that are listed in the amendment. Revenue and expenditures due to the award of the CARES Act. Turn it over to Kathy.
Yes. Good morning. I would like to introduce a little bit about Resolution 2019, which begins on page 13 in the packet. Resolution 2019 is presenting amendment number 2 to the UPWP. If you've been looking ahead in the agenda, do not be confused because amendment 1 is later. That went through TPC as it is more content oriented. This one is all about budget tables. So we brought that through F&P. It's just an artifact of the order of the committee reports. So amendment 2 is adding $658,000 of the budget amendment that Talea just described to our UPWP budget tables in order that we may use it to cover NIRPC expenses for a transit oversight program. And I believe that is, yes, that is the purpose of that. So, and all of the, how that is being allocated is in the tables on the following pages. Highlighted in yellow are the changes between the original UPWP tables and the new. And at that, I believe I hand it back to Talea.
Thank you, Kathy. Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Yes, fine.
Okay, resolution 2020, a resolution of the Northwestern Indiana Regional Planning Commission creating a new accounting fund number to track our CARES Act revenues and expenditures. Since we have been awarded CARES Act funds, it is now imperative that we remain compliant with State Board of Accounts. In a memorandum dated April 29th of 2020 from the Indiana State Boards of Accounts, accounting guidance has been given for tracking CARES Act funds, and each program that is funded by the different CARES Act provider will be required to have a different fund number and fund name that clearly identifies the assistance being provided. Within this resolution, we are asking that the Commission gives NIRPC staff permission to create a new accounting fund numbers for all programs awarded under the CARES Act of 2020. The next resolution, 2021, that's on page 20. I'm sorry, I don't know which page it's on.
Page 20.
Resolution 2021.
Yes.
This resolution of the Northwestern Indiana Regional Planning Commission is for opening a new RLF bank account for EDA CARES Act funds. NIRPC has been awarded CARES Act funding under the Economic Development Administration of the U.S. Department of Commerce. Those funds are restricted to the revolving loans funds from the EDA under the Corona Aid Relief and Economic Security Act of 2020. Per the EDA requirements, these funds must be tracked separately from NIRPC's existing RLF bank account to remain compliant with both the EDA and Indiana State Board of Accounts. We are asking that the Commission authorize NIRPC staff to open a new bank account for purposes of the CARES Act funding for the expanded revolving loan program. Now we'll hand it over to Lisa for procurement recommendations.
Thank you. The procurement recommendations before you all fall under Indiana Grant 2020-014, which is the CARES Act Fund grant through the Federal Transit Administration. as a result, the funds are 100% federal, 0 local share required from any of the agencies. The first procurement is 20-14. That is for 5 replacement vehicles, 2 of them going to Opportunity Enterprises, or I apologize, 3 of them going to Opportunity Enterprises and 2 of them going to LaPorte Transport. There is a total of $345,208 for those vehicles. Again, 100% federal funds, 0 local share required from those agencies. The next procurement is 20-15. That is for 2 replacement support vehicles. Those 2 vehicles will go to the city of East Chicago. That is $110,000 in federal funds, 0 local share required from those agencies. Procurement 20-16 is to acquire miscellaneous support equipment. That is for all 7 of the subrecipients and NIRPC. The total federal funds will be $931,924, 100% federal, 0 local share required. So for all 3 of those procurements, we are asking for approval of a total of $1,387,132. And that concludes the Finance and Personnel Committee items.
Thank you, Ms. Todd. Mr. Hardaway, is there anything further you wish to add on behalf of the activity of the Finance and Personnel Committee?
No, sir. Thank you.
All right. They're recommending favor. Commissioners, do you have any questions about any of the matters that have been presented to you? As presented then, it is in order based on item of agenda item is that first page would read resolutions 20-14, 2015, and 2016. And it reads 2014, 15, and 16 again, and those should actually read 2019, 2020, and 2021. So we're considering under the consent agenda for this particular item of body of business, resolutions 2014 through 2021 inclusive. Is any commissioner wish to have any one of those resolutions removed from the consent agenda to be considered separately?
If I could, Mr. Chair, if I understood your assessment there, the numbers under procurement recommendations 2014, 2015, and 2016 are a different numbering for the procurements, not actually resolution numbers.
I beg your
So
pardon.
I'm sorry that's a confusing construct for the numbering, but
But they are action items, are they not?
they are. But just to be clear,
So they're all part of the consent body. So if you want either those matters of action or the formal resolutions to be considered separately, a commissioner should speak up now. Hearing none then, the motion that the chair will receive would be to approve matters under the item 8 consent agenda, all matters listed, all 6 of them. Is there a motion?
You have that motion.
I can motion.
Commissioner Tun and Commissioner Miss seconds. Is there any discussion on the motion? Does the mover or the seconder wish to speak in favor of the motion? Does anyone wish to speak against the motion? Hearing none, Candace Eklund, if you please, would you please conduct the roll?
Yes, I will. Kyle Allen. Dwayne Hart. Jeanette Bax. Janet Beck.
Aye.
Jeff Benson.
Aye.
Jim Biggs. Kevin Brightsky. Kevin Brightsky.
Yes.
Thank you. Charlie Brown.
Yeah.
Bill Carroll.
Yes.
Robert Carnahan.
Yes.
Anthony Copeland. Joshleen Denham.
Yes.
Tom Dermody.
Yes.
John Derwinski. Dinah Dumbrus.
Yes.
Bill Emerson.
Yes.
Michael Griffin.
Yes.
Richard.
Did you say Richard Hardaway?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Thank you. Tony Hendricks. Eric Hall. Jack Geralds.
Yes.
Tim Jones, Justin Keel,
Yes.
Andrew Kiris, Jeff Larson, Robert Lemay,
Yes.
Sue Lynch,
Yes.
Sheila Matthias,
Yes.
Tom McDermott, Lori Mercer, Wendy Miss,
Yes.
Edward Morales, Matt Murphy,
Yes.
Diane Knoll,
Yes.
David Peeler, Ron Prince,
Yes.
thank you. Michael Rosenbaum, Rick Rifa,
Yes.
Carolyn Saxton, Tom Schmidt, Brian Snedecor, Ed Soliday,
Yes.
Joe Stahura, Greg Stinson,
Yes.
Gerald Swets,
Yes.
Sharon Zwido, Mary Tanis,
Yes.
James Hahn,
Yes.
George Topple,
Yes.
John Yelkich. That concludes the list, Michael.
Thank you, Ms. Eklund. 15 votes necessary to pass. I have 29 affirmatives and no negatives. The motion passes. The consent agenda items under item 8 are all approved. Next matter, I recognize Kevin Brisky as Commissioner and Chair of the Technical Planning Committee.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The Technical Planning Committee met on Tuesday, July 7th by virtual means. There are 3 actions for consideration today, and you'll see those in your packet. From pages 22 to 72, Amendment number 1 to the Unified Planning Work Program is on page 25. That's Amendment number 1, Resolution 2016. 2017 is for the Living Streets Program. That'll be pages 27 to 29. And the TIP amendment number 9 is resolution 2018, pages 34 to 35. Each was favorably recommended by TPC, and staff will now present on each one of these. Following their presentations, a single vote will be entertained for all 3 items under the consent agenda as described by Chairman Griffin.
Thank you, Chairman Britsky. Is there going to be any additional presentation with regard to the matters there from staff?
Yes, this is James Winters. I'm going to talk through Resolution 2016, which is UPWP Amendment number 1.
Thank you, Mr. Winters. Please proceed.
Thank you. So as you can see on your screen, this is a UPWP Amendment number 1, Resolution 2016. This is a simple addition to the UPWP. If you flip to the next page, you can see we're adding this language into the UPWP that includes some other significant regional planning activities to be included. We include language for other significant regional planning activities so that other bodies besides NIRPC can have access to funds that help them for planning across a myriad of purposes. Since the UPWP was adopted, GPTC reached out to us and asked us to include some language about their planning practices. So this is an amendment to accommodate that request so they can continue to get federal funding to support their planning. Thank you.
All right. Good morning, commissioners.
Morning.
I am going to speak about the Living Streets resolution, which is resolution number 2017. It's found on page 26 of your packet, starting on page 27 of your packet. My apologies. The Living Streets guidelines and resolution build off of the Complete Streets resolution that was originally adopted by NIRPC over a decade ago. This happened to be the I believe, the second complete streets policy that was adopted by an MPO in the state of Indiana. Since then, nearly all MPOs have since adopted complete streets ordinances. In the interim decade, we have had some progress made in the integration of environmental aspects into our street and roadway designs, and these have been called green streets. If you look at page 28 of your resolution, green streets are defined, and I will read it as verbatim. They represent a stormwater management approach that incorporates vegetation, which includes perennial shrubs and trees, soil, and engineered systems to slow, filter, and cleanse stormwater runoff from impervious surfaces like streets and sidewalks. So what we did was work closely with our environmental department, and special thanks to both Kathy Luther and Joe Exel for helping out with this, and also bringing to bear the Environmental Management Policy Committee along with the Pedal and Paddle Committee. They came together late last year as a subcommittee and worked several hours to incorporate these green streets elements into the complete streets, the existing guidance and resolution. And over the course of the spring, we had approvals from both the EMPC and the 3PC on this Living Streets resolution. COVID taking place, we've had it delayed since then, but we have had, because of that, a lot more time to review the guidelines with our stakeholders throughout the region. And just this month here in July, the Technical Planning Committee did approve the draft Living Streets resolution and guidelines. And as I have mentioned before, they are guidelines here to kind of help with our review and design guidance for our LPAs and other stakeholders as they present projects for NIRPC review and approval. Thank you.
Mitch?
Yes.
On my package that I printed off the NIRPC site, mine starts on page 29 and not 27 and 28.
That's correct, Bob. We have different copies through time.
There was,
okay.
if I could, there was one, the initial link that went out initially did not include the budget amendment. It was quickly adjusted to add the budget amendment, but you guys are just so on the ball and that we weren't able to catch up with the more recent version. So thank you, Bob, for clarifying. But that's the only difference between the packets, is it did not include the budget amendment that was in the finance and personnel portion.
All right.
That has changed the page numbers, but the content is correct, and Meredith is doing an awesome job flipping through the pages on your screen, which are correct.
Is there anything further to come before the committee to explain the last matter before us, the TIP amendment number 9?
I believe, yes, Charles Bradsky will make that presentation.
Yes. By the way, Mitch, I love your headset. And when you started talking, you have such a sonorous voice. I thought, welcome to Parliament Airline.
Thank you, sir. That's the high compliment. I appreciate that.
Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
9.2, or actually 9. The public comment report for amendment number 9. NIRPC held a 21-day public comment for this amendment from June 10th to July 1st, 2020. The amendment and the list of projects were made available on NIRPC's website, and unfortunately, no comments were received. NIRPC also sent the list of projects to the Interagency Consultation Group for comments prior to putting the list out of these projects on its website. Again, no comments were received from the ICG, and approval was given on June 8th, 2020, and this report is on page, I believe, page 35. Resolution 2018 amendment number 9 is on pages 36 and 37, and we can all read, so I'll move on to give a brief synopsis of amendment number 9. This amendment comprises of 57 projects and actually covers fiscal years 2020 to 2024 on pages 38 to 74 of your packet. 2 projects were local, Crown Point and Michigan City. They were kind of the bookends, the first project and the last project. And in the amendment, and in the middle are 55 projects belonging to NDOT. Crown Point moved funds from PE to right-of-way in 2022, and Michigan City canceled or eliminated a project in 2021. The 55 projects from NDOT are broken down to the following: 40 projects for bridge deck overlays throughout the region. Bridge deck replacement was 1 project. Concrete pavement rehab was 3 projects. HMA overlays were 11 projects throughout the region. Are there any questions? That concludes my report.
Thank you, Mr. Bransky. I appreciate it. I'm sorry, did somebody wish to be recognized? I beg the commission's pardon. All right, members of the commission, thank you, Mr. Bransky, for your presentation as chair of the committee as well. Unless there's anything further to present to us, we will come back to you for 9.3 if that's acceptable.
Yes.
We have the matters of the consent agenda at this time. So the matters before us is unless a commissioner asks that any one of the resolutions 2016, 2017, or 2018 should be removed for separate consideration, these will be considered en banc under the consent agenda for these items. Is there any commissioner that wishes any of those items to be separately considered? Hearing none, the chair will receive a motion then with regard to approving the matters on the TPC consent agenda under 9.2, which would be resolutions 2016, 2017, and 2018.
So moved.
Can the commissioner identify the self?
Benson, Jeff Benson.
Commissioner Benson, who is on the beach today. Is there a second?
Second.
And can the commissioner identify himself? Is that Commissioner
Ton.
Thank you, Commissioner Ton. I remind all the commissioners to look to see if your mute switch has been switched to the on position or off position. It would now be in order at this time. Seconded to approve these matters. Ms. Candace Eklund, if you'll be so kind, could you conduct the roll call one more time, please?
Yes, I'll be happy to. Okay, Kyle Allen. Dwayne Arndt. Jeanette Baps. Janet Beck.
Yes.
Jeff Benson.
Aye.
Jim Biggs. Kevin Brightsky.
Yes.
Charlie Brown.
Yes.
Bill Carroll. Bill Carroll.
Yes.
Robert Carnahan.
Yes.
Anthony Copeland. Jocelyn Denham.
Yes.
Tom Dermody.
Yes.
John Derwinski. Dinah Doombris.
Yes.
Bill Emerson.
Yes.
Michael Griffin.
Yes.
Richard Hardaway.
Yes.
Tony Hendricks. Eric Hall. Jack Geralds.
Yes.
Tim Jones. Justin Keel.
Yes.
Andrew Kiris.
Yes.
Jeff Larson. Robert LeMay.
Yes.
I hope you're all, Commissioner LeMay.
Pardon me?
Please proceed. I'm sorry. I just heard somebody cough and I was trying to offer comfort.
Oh, sorry. Sue Lynch.
Yes.
Sheila Matthias.
Yes.
Tom McDermott. Lori Mercer. Wendy Miss.
Yes.
Edward Morales. Matt Murphy.
Yes.
Diane Knoll.
Yes.
Dwayne Perry. David Peeler. Jerome Prince.
Yes.
Michael Rosenbaum. Rick Rifa.
Yes.
Carolyn Saxton. Tom Schmidt. Brian Snedecor. Ed Soliday.
Yes.
Joe Sahura. Greg Stinson.
Yes.
Gerald Swets.
Yes.
Sharon Zuido. Mary Tanis.
Yes.
James Tunn.
Aye.
George Topol.
Yes.
And John Yelkich.
All right.
List.
Thank you very much, Candace Eklund, for that and the professional dispatch you evidenced in doing that. The chair finds that 15 would be necessary for passage. There are 29 affirmatives and no negatives. The motion passes. The consent agenda items under 9.2 are adopted and approved. Chair now recognizes Kevin Breesky one more time, or Mr. Bratsky, to talk about the informational element of the TIP amendment.
I'll speak to that. This is Charles Bradsky.
Thank you, Mr. Bratsky.
In April, NIRPC signed emergency amendment number 8, and this is on pages 75 to 81. In order to keep federal funds in the region, generally every year at the end of April, NIRPC obligates its unused balance of funds through an emergency amendments. These projects, we put these funds either towards transit or projects or phases of projects that are already in the TIP. That is to say, they've already gone through the public comment process at least once before. NIRPC is cognizant of the public participation plan, and we try our best to minimize any sidestepping or thinking that we're sidestepping the process with an emergency amendment. In this amendment, there were 3 projects that NIRPC added funds to. The Economic Corridor Study in LaPorte County received PE funds of $309,269. This is the north-south corridor that LaPorte County and the city of LaPorte are anxiously working towards. Also, Willow Creek Extension in Porter County received PE funds for design of $145,706. And the Campbell Lincoln Way roundabout in Valparaiso received design funds of $309,081. And that's it for this.
This was an informational part of the meeting, so no vote will be required.
I thank you both very much for your service and your leadership on this matter. If there's no questions of those of Mr. Bratsky or Mr. Breetsky from the commissioners, I'm going to proceed to the next matter and recognize.
Chairman, may I announce that our next meeting for Technical Planning Committee is scheduled for August 11th, 10 a.m. And NIRPC staff will publish whether this is going to be in person or virtually based. So thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. I'm sorry I got ahead of you a little bit on that.
That's right.
The next matter then before us is to receive a report or comments from Matt Deachley, who is the Deputy Commissioner of the LaPorte District. Are you here, Mr. Deachley?
I am here. Good morning.
Welcome and good morning.
Good morning. And Mr. Chairman, I must ask your forgiveness. I didn't ask you if I could remove my tie and jacket as well. But considering the fact that I never put either on this morning, I guess I'll grovel a little later.
Because you never really removed it, you never put it on.
Well, with so few people in our offices, they're lucky I'm not wearing a t-shirt today. So yeah, just a few things I wanted to mention. As Ty mentioned earlier, the Community Crossings July call is on hold until September when we're going to reevaluate. I wanted to make sure folks understood that the governor and NDOT greatly value this program. But coming in September, we're going to reevaluate where the revenue looks like, and hopefully we'll see what we can do at that point. So I know I've received some questions on that since that announcement came out, so I wanted to address it. The other thing I really wanted to make sure I brought up is that I've heard from a number of folks, and rightly so, about mowing in on state right-of-ways in the LaPorte district. We've had some challenges with the contractor this year, so there are some areas that are having some significant challenges in those mowing of right-of-ways. So I wanted to acknowledge that and let everybody know we see it, we agree, and we're working on it. But good news, contractor crews have moved into our LaPorte district just this week. So hopefully that will be remedied in the near future. We are still addressing with our NDOT crews any site distances or issues. So if folks have concerns or questions, please don't be afraid to reach out to me and we will address that as we possibly can. But they are moving in, so things are getting better. The last thing I wanted to bring up was the work on I-65. Obviously, folks who drive through that area likely have seen our construction going on, and we did mention that earlier this year that was upcoming. Haven't had significant delays with that. We're expecting that to wrap up in November. Just significant bridge deck overlay work is the majority of what that is. So we are continuing and we are on schedule. Beyond that, I don't have anything else to offer unless folks have any questions for me.
I do, Matt. This is Mary Tanis from Dyer. Other than the fact that going through Dyer is like an obstacle course, the Route 30 has been down to one lane and it's causing all kinds of problems all the way into Illinois. But I just wanted to make you aware, make sure that you let us know when there's going to be changes. And we do try to keep up on them to keep our residents posted because it's gotten really bad a couple of times. So I appreciate your work. Thank you so much.
Sure, and you are not incorrect. It has been a challenge in that area. Obviously, that comes with road work. But yeah, if you have any questions moving forward, please let me know, and I'll help however I can.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions?
This is your chance, everyone.
Charlie Brown, Lake County Council. I don't see any signs that indicate that the entrance to 94 or 65, you cannot get off at certain entrances or exits. What is happening there?
I'm not aware specifically off the top of my head what that is, but let me look into that for you and I can certainly get back to you. You said that there are entrance ramps and exit ramps?
On 30.
On 30.
No information to say that you cannot get on 65 and travel north. Or there are others that I can't recall, but that's the one that's freshly in my mind. That nothing to indicate prior to approaching that entrance that you cannot travel north on 65 off of 30.
Okay. I know we've had some temporary ramp closures in that area, but off the top of my head, I cannot remember or recall the signage in that area. But let me look into that and I'll see if I can remedy that.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you, Matt, very much for your service and for being here with us today and offering those reports of interest to all of us. The next business in order is other business. For me, this would be a time for you to introduce notice of introducing a matter at the next meeting or something that we may have forgotten during the course of this meeting. I only want to offer that it appears that our quorum was maintained during the entire meeting, but at some point we may have attained to 30 members being present. If that's true, the only thing I wish to correct is the number necessary to pass a matter would have been 16. Nevertheless, our total votes being what they were, there's no issue of adoption. There's no quarrel about that, but I did want to correct that in the event because we started with 20, thought we were at 29, but at one point somebody voted once and then didn't vote the second time and another voted in their stead and didn't vote the first time. So we might be at 30 if that's the case. Is there any other business to be raised by staff or by the commission?
Mr. Chairman, Charlie Brown again. The census, I think it's important that we as a body and that we as individual elected officials get out there and from now to October 31, the importance of everyone signing up for the census. The commission relies heavily on federal funds and we don't need to leave any federal funds on the table. And granted, there has been an extension to October 31, but I noticed that the northern end of Lake County is very, the numbers are very low. I don't know other areas have that same issue of legal participants not participating in the census, even the illegal ones. We need to try to capture every federal dollar that we can. So I think we need to advertise and point out to all the people of Porter and LaPorte County the importance of participating in the census count.
I fully agree with you, Commissioner Brown. Are you asking that we consider dedicating, when you said advertisement, do you mean that we as public officials should make it our duty to talk as much as possible on this subject, or were you proposing another method?
No, I'm suggesting that we advertise and get the word out as many times as we can.
Okay. Ty, do you want to speak to that? Is that a budgetary item? Do we have movement within our budget to support that action?
Support the action of communicating the importance of completing the census. Did I catch that correctly?
That is my understanding, although Commissioner Brown is present, he can clarify if we're not picking that up. I concur in what he wants to do. What I'm trying to figure out is, does he want us to take out formal ads? Does he want us to use our social media to promote it more? I'm just wanting to get a hand. I know he wants us to advocate for everybody to participate. I just want to understand if he's making a proposal that we shift budget money or something like that.
No, every platform that we have available to us to make it known that we should support efforts to get everyone counted on the census.
Very good. We can certainly keep pushing that message. We did an entire stream daily, I think for an entire 30 days in a row of those messages up until April 1st. And then I think we've had even periodic social media blasts since then. We can certainly revisit that and keep getting that word out, because as you say, rightly so, this is a critical thing for everyone to participate in.
And I thank Commissioner Brown for those comments. Ty, if you would, please, would you work with staff to review all of our media, including our website and anything that we dispatch that gets any kind of public circulation that has some component of it that conspicuously reminds people to participate in the census. I think that's the gist of the request there, that we shouldn't miss any moment to promote the census. And before I'm done today, I will do that too, although this has had the effect of doing that as well. And I thank you for that. Is there any other business to come before us today?
Yes.
Carnahan.
Carnahan and then Commissioner Benson.
All right, I'm going to go along with what Commissioner Brown was saying. The town of Cedar Lake lost $20 million from the 2010 census. And I'm disappointed in my community. We are only at 73.4% counted in the town. We were at 80% in 2010. I've got a lady named Indy Gonzalez who on my committee is working very hard to spread this word. Each person not counted will lose $27,100 over the next 10 years. You can either do it by online, by a hard copy, or a toll-free number, and that toll-free number is 1-844-330-2020.
Okay, I want to repeat that because an animal companion decided to contribute to our meeting today. 843-330-2020. Is that correct, Commissioner Carnahan?
Yes.
And maybe that.
And they are starting to go door to door now.
Right. Maybe that's something that we could actually include in anything that we used to promote over all of our media, Mr. Warner. Ty?
Sure.
Is there any other business, or that would have really been an order for announcements, but I just don't have the heart to rule Commissioner Carnahan out of order. Commissioner Benson?
Yes, in the chat, Kathy Sippel has asked Kathy Luther to do a presentation possibly next month on the greenhouse gas emissions inventory for the region. And I would ask that you look at that or work with staff to see if that's a possibility. That's all.
Unless there's an objection from the commission, I think that I'm going to forward that to the full plate of the executive director and ask him to work on that, please.
Okay.
Thank you.
You're very welcome, Commissioner. Thank you. I'm going to move on then to announcements. Does anybody have an announcement? Any weddings, any engagements? Any bands to be published? Hearing none then, having concluded all the matters on our agenda and nothing necessary to come before the commission, pursuant to my powers chair under the parliamentary practices of the commission, I declare the meeting adjourned. And I thank all the commissioners for their patience with the medium. I thank all of you for making a point to attend. It was nice to have 2 times we've done this to have a full quorum. I wish you all health. I wish you safety, and I wish to see you the next time that we can see each other in person. We are adjourned. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. We got from staff.
Well
too.
done, Michael.
Thank you so much, Mr. Chair.